guys, welcome back to another one of my videos. This one's not so much of a tutorial as a watch me work on my winter frosty set, which everybody voted for me to pop on and show you first. So I'm going to show you on this plasticky hand that I've got. I don't do the thumb on this set because thumbs are boring, to be quite honest with you. So I've popped in the base nails on these and I'm prepping them as if they were natural nails. So I've obviously done all my cuticle work. Look at her lovely cuticles on Angelina. And I'm going over with a medium sandband on my E-file. I'm going on really, really light pressure, super low speed, literally just bobbing over the top, dusting off with a floofy brush. I'm spraying a bit of sanitizer spray onto this harder brush, and I do this to get the last bits of dust and bits and pieces out of those ridges and the cuticle areas, and it also acts as a dehydrator as well, so you don't need to do that bit as well. I'm using the C-curve tips from Wowbow, and they're really long tips. They're absolutely fantastic. The Wowbow tips are like super long. I love them. And they are a coffin shape. I'm going to keep them coffin shape. I'm going to keep them full length, which is fab. Something I do, I don't know if you guys do it as well, is I would turn the client's hand around and sort of bend it up to make sure that you've got your tip straight. Obviously on a silicone hand that's not quite as easy, but just to make sure that when you get your photos at the end and all your angles and everything, your nails are all on straight and they're not slightly wonky. I'm taking one of the metal board files from Wowbow, and I've got the thick side on one side, like the spongy here, and the thin on the other. So I'm using the thin side to just go along the edges and take in those wings. So on these tips, and these have got tiny little like sort of a well on them, along the edges, right at the top where the tips are, they're like wings at the top, and I just, once they're glued on and they're all filed, I take those down slightly. Sometimes if I'm feeling particularly like I can be bothered to do it, I get a little pair of nail clippers and I nip the ends off, the wings off. But this time I'm just going to pop in and just file them down super quick. And that just, you make sure that when you finish your design and you file down, you're getting it as thin as possible, that you're not going to go down to those wings, and that you've got a little bit more area to play with. So I'm going back to my sanding band, and you can hand file to blend these tips in. Not that they really need it, because they're actually quite thin, which is really good. They're thin, but they're not bendy, if that makes sense. They're like sturdy, but they're not really thick. I know what I mean. I'm sure you know what I mean as well. So, literally just skipping along the edge, not touching the natural nail. I'm just skipping over just to blend it ever so slightly. But, I mean, you don't really need to do it, especially if you're going to do the next bit, which is I'm going to pop on a really thin, clear base of acrylic. So I've just given them a wipe over and got underneath as well with my alcohol spray and brush. Here's my fancy dish. I do love a fancy dish. This is a super old trinket pot or something. It's frosted glass with a little bow on the lid. It looks like a parcel. It's so cute. I love it. I love it from Monomer. This is my Wowbow size 12, and I'm using it because this silicone hand's got quite small nail beds. Grabbing my crystal clear and my primer. And I do prime just because it keeps me in the habit, and I don't know if anybody else does this, but if you do a lot of sets on like silicone hands and stuff and you miss out like steps to your prep, I sometimes that will then go back to a client and then I'll forget to do it as well. So I actually do like prime my silicone hand, because it's really important that we get good adhesion. You know, anyway, that's just me. So I'm just blobbing a tiny bit of crystal clear acrylic on, and that's going to be our base layer, so that when Angelina comes back for her redesign at her infill, I can just file back to the clear layer. these are the colours I'm going to use. That's Frosting, Silver Liqueur, which is Lush, Blizzard, which is really bright white with glitter in it, gorgeous for winter sets. This is Wow Blue Glitter without a label, just so you know what it is. And then we've got Frozen as well, which is the paler of the two. So Frosting is slightly darker, Frozen is slightly lighter. And then you've got Fairy Dust, which is one of the new pre-mixed glitter acrylics, which is just stunning. And you know, if you're doing any winter or Christmas sets, you're going to use that all the time. So I'm indicating to you here a V shape. I'm going to do a like a smile line, but a chevron, but in white. So it's kind of going to be like an icicle. I'm popping that first bead on, and that's Blizzard. I'm just pulling the center of that bead down, and I'm tipping the hand slightly downwards that you can't really see on this camera angle, just to allow gravity to give you a bit of a hand. I'm blending the back of the bead in ever so slightly, and I'm going to use my brush to shape out the chevron of this sort of elongated nail bed, well, white icicle type affair. Some people cut theirs and they would just pull down the shape and use a tool or I've seen people using craft knives, I've seen people using dental floss or string, all sorts of stuff. I like to shape with my brush and just get it as neat as I can. Keep looking down the barrel of the nail, especially with chevrons, to make sure you're right in the center as well. But we will go back in. I'm going to refine that shape, those edges, with a file, so that's all good. So I've gone in again with Blizzard and I've popped in a cuticle bead. Just going to get that all nice and flush. I'm going to just take my time to pat it and press it right up to where the cuticle is, making sure that you don't flood the cuticle, and you get your brush behind the bead and just drag that down and blend it into your existing bead as well. Make sure that you've got all those bits covered, and then just swipe your lines, make sure you've got everything nice and straight, or as straight as you can. Going into the index finger with Frosting, and I'm just covering the cuticle area because this is going to be a snowy marble. So a blob of Blizzard, blob of Frosting, and Silver Liqueur, and we're just going to marble up and down on the diagonal. And then I'm going to swipe my edges to make sure I'm not losing my shape or bulking up too much. Just going to press those areas wherever there's any, if I see any gaps or anything, take off any excess if I'm not keen on it. So I'm going to go back in with another 3 beads of those same colours, and then just go up top right and then gently drag it through. And then I'm not going to worry too much about this bottom corner because I am going to add some glitter, and I'm going to use Fairy Dust just to add kind of like, I tell you what it reminds me of when you have like a marble like this, of these sort of blues and whites and silvers, and then you put swirls or swooshes of this kind of glitter through. It's like an icy blast, you know, when you watch like Disney films and stuff, and you get like a little blast of icicles or snowflakes come through. It kind of reminds me of that. So I've sped it up just so you can see I'm fiddling and faffing and messing around. Make sure you use your brush and push all those pieces nice and flat as well. We will go back and clear cap all of these, but you want it to lay as flat as possible really, so you keep your nail nice and thin. So I'm going in on the cuticle, on the ring finger here, and this is Frozen, which is a really lush colour. It's got sort of glitter and stuff in it. Just kind of covering it but not covering it, if that makes sense. Getting your cuticle done so it's not clear, but I don't want to go too crazy. And then Frosting, I'm just kind of going over it a bit but not really wanting to keep it too flat or anything. And then I'm using Wow Blue glitter, which is from the Wow Summer Collection glitters, but the blue just makes the most gorgeous, like icy, sparkly stuff. And then I'm putting fairy dust over the top, but kind of ombreing it up the nail. So for the little finger, the little pinky, I'm using Silver Liqueur at the end, and I'm just covering the end, and I'm going to paint that up the nail. Silver Liqueur is so pigmented, you can literally just paint it on like paint, and that it is perfect. The colour is perfect, which is exactly what I'm doing here. And I'm not worrying too much about getting too far up, because I'm going in with these glitters again at the cuticle area. I'm just going to pat and press those right into shape. Not worrying too much about that, because I'm going to go in with some other glitter on top of that as well. Bit more of the blue, and then am I doing fairy dust or just blue? I think it was just Wow Blue glitter. So I'm taking the thin side of my metal refill file again, and I'm just going to refine the shape of my chevron. Give that a really good file. Support the nail a bit better if it's on a real person, eh? Get your fingers around the edge and hold the nail. I just didn't, because, you know, Angelina, she's quite tough, and if her nail falls off, she's alright about it. She doesn't complain. She doesn't pay me like, but she doesn't complain. It's fine. It's fine. So we've got a really nice crisp shape there, and you've got a wall to butt your next colour up against. So you just see that line is dead straight with that file, and that side it's dead straight with that file as well, which is exactly how you want it. Especially on these icy sets, you want a really crisp line. So I'm just holding these together every now and again. I'm having a look, seeing if there's anything else I want to add at this point, making sure that my point is down the central line of these C-curve tips so that it's not going to end up being on the wonk. And then I've grabbed a bit of the Silver Liqueur on the end of my brush, and I'm basically going to paint the very edge of my white chevron and just blend it a little bit out from the edge. I'm not covering the whole tip because I'm going to add glitter onto that tip, and I want it to be sort of semi-transparent. I don't want it to be covered in the silver, because I really like with these icy sets when you cover the tips in glitter, that you have that almost sort of see-through effect, and it's like ice. And yeah, it's just I really like that on the winter sets. Obviously it's down to you guys, do what you like. I'm not your mum. So we're going in with the blue, the Wow Blue glitter, just putting that at the end and then walking it up the sides of the nails. I'm not going right close to the chevron, I'm just covering the gaps, and that's all. Gappy. And then making sure that that's pushed down nice and flush. And like I said, we will clear cap all of these, so I'm going to go over this, but if any of those pieces are sticking up, even when you clear cap, which is what I'm doing now, going in with a clear bead and making sure I get my cuticle and then pulling it down or walking it down the nail, patting and pressing, any of those bits of glitter are standing up, they will go through your layer, your clear cap. And then when you come to file it, you'll start filing your glitter away, plus you'll open up your clear cap, and then stuff can get in, moisture can get in. It's just a bit of a nightmare. So make sure that you do lay all those bits flat, really push them flat, get your brush sort of semi-wet, and just press them flat. Okay, so we've added an extra bead just to build our apex up, because these are quite long nails. You want a decent size apex. Look down the barrel of the nail, see if one side's slightly thicker than the other. Does one side need building up? Is the middle flat? On the really tight C curves, it's easy to push the top flat and the sides are too thick. So make sure you've got enough down the centre as well as the sides. Okay, so I'm just whipping through these. My camera did cut off when I was capping some of these. I had run out of memory, which is crazy because I've got a ridiculous amount of memory on my phone. So I'm taking the file at this point, and where I went over with the silver around the edges, I went right over that white. So I'm skipping over the white just to take the silver off. And I'm going to give that a really good dust to make sure that I reveal all of the chevron of that white. I'm wetting the nail with a little bit of monomer, just on the acrylic, not on the skin, obviously. I'm popping the clear over the edge and I'm pulling it sideways up against that edge. And you can see I'm doing the same that side. And I'm walking it up the side. I'm then making sure that everything's covered, that all my sides have got a decent shape to them. And then I'm just adding a final bead at the top, just as a thin layer over the white, which is Blizzard, making sure my cuticles are nice and tidy, and that I've got my structure in and my apex in. So this is my shaping filing. I'm just taking any jagged edge off the underneath, and then I'm shaping the sides. I'm going under, and then turning a file right upright and going right to from the top to the bottom. So I've got a really good line, a really nice, straight, crisp line. So underneath, to take any hangers off, anything that goes over the edge, and then up and down, right from the tip up to the apex. Nice and straight. And then I'm going to crisp up the edge, and I go and I hold the nail, support the nail, and I go up and down. And for me, that gives me the most crisp shape for my shaping. So you can see there, that's got a really, really nice, crisp, square shape to it. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to do all of them. There's loads of shaking and tips falling out and God knows what else. Christ. Not ideal. I'll try and get some footage of a real hand. That would probably be better. So I'm going to go back in with my E-file, and this is a bit more of a coarse cone bit with a flat top, and I'm going to whip round the cuticle area. Now all I'm doing really is just making sure that that cuticle area is nice and flush like it's supposed to be, and anything that isn't absolutely flush I'm just going to take down a little bit. Make sure I've got my shaping in so that when that grows out, my client comes for a refill or infill, that there isn't like a ridge or a step or anything that can get caught, picked at, because I know what you're all like. I got your number. So I'm literally just taking it down the barrel there, refining a bit in shape, going over, making sure my end's nice and thin, making sure that I've got a decent shape from apex to tip, looking down the barrel, making sure that my left and my right are the same, and I'm just going to do the same on all nails and get my shape nice and refined. Don't go near your edges. You've already finish filed those edges. You don't want to ruin your shape. You're literally just taking off any little bits of bulk and making sure that your cuticles are beautiful and flush. So I'm now happy with my shape. I'm going to go over with a buffer and take out any deep demarcations, and that's just to make sure that any little like of your deeper scratches are not going to show, because especially with clear nails you don't want any of those demarcations showing, because it will just ruin the effect of the nail. So we want to buff those up nice. Don't go near your edges, don't undo your good work of your shaping at all. And then check down the barrel to make sure everything's even left and right and that they're not too thick. Make sure that they're nice and thin. Get that spray on again after you've dusted and get all of the dust out of the cuticles and everything. Popping in with Wow Bow Diamond Shine top coat. Look at this top coat reveal on these sparkly nails. Oh my god, it's proper lush. I love it. I love top coating. It's probably my favourite bit not creating or none of it. None of that. It's literally top coat, and especially if there's glitter, I'm all like, ooh. And you can see I've top coated underneath there, so when you've got a clear nail, top coat underneath, but make sure that once your top coat is cured in the lamp, get the client to turn their hand over and cure again, so that you're getting the underneath of the nail fully cured, and make sure you don't get anything on the skin. I've got my dodgy palette, and that clear bit that you can't really see is Wowbow Gem Gel. It's like a gem glue, and I'm using it, I've decanted it onto the palette, and I'm literally using their 5mm liner brush just to paint it on the nail where I want it. I'm using a bit of pink tack on a cuticle pusher to pick up my gems because I'm really classy like that, but actually I quite like using blue tack on a cuticle pusher for gem work, but it's just me. So I'm making sure that my middle gem there is right in the middle, and I'm really faffing to make sure it's central. And then you can build a cluster, and I'm going to build sort of a similar shaped cluster to the chevron, and you can build that and it will be perfectly straight because you've got your central crystal in place. So I'm just working down the nail. I've not put any caviar beads on these ones, they're literally just crystals. So I'm going to give that a cure off screen. You're not going to see it, I'm going to edit it out. So that's cured now. This one's going to have a swoosh of crystals starting in the middle. It's going to be a bit of like a reverse S shape. So I'm working from the middle biggest crystal out to the slightly smaller ones, making the initial shape, and then I'm kind of just bulking them out where I feel like it, and I'm making it up as I go along, and that's generally what I do with crystal placement. But I like it. I could have used some caviar beads, some of the silver ones would have looked really nice. So I've cured it and I've top coated around it, and this is the finished set. Really love these nails, really wintry, icy, pretty set of nails, really gorgeous. I really hope you've enjoyed watching me do sets of nails. Let me know if you want me to do more of this kind of thing, and I can get Angelina back in for another appointment. She does have another hand, and at the minute her other hand's got galaxy nails on, which will be my next watch me work video. This is a bit of a close-up of that lush marble, beaut, and I love it. So I've got a finished edited picture of those nails for you. Again, I really hope you've enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments what you want to see next. See you in the next one. Bye.